Good morning from wherever you're watching us from on this very important day. The reason I keep on repeating the date, the 12th day of August, it happens to be the International Youth Day 2021. And as the theme goes, transforming food systems, youth innovation for human and planetary Earth, it's all to do with a global effort in terms of meaningful participation of young people in the food systems within the world. So the couple of issues that might affect the youthful generation, which is the majority right now as we work. So we just want to have a discussion on this. How do we ensure youth continue to amplify their efforts effectively and individually to sort of plug in into the vision, not just within the country when I speak of Vision 2030 and the likes, but also the agendas on the global stage, African Union Vision 2063 and the likes, because the future is ours, as they usually say. So Mike Mulure is joining me in studio. He's a founder of Black Boy Media Lab. It's great to have you with us, and perhaps let me tell you, happy International Youth Day.
Thank you, Jesse. Happy International Youth Day.
Okay, so in line with the theme, I think it would be proper to start with the role youth play in achieving equitable and sustainable food systems. Are we actively participating as youth in this all-important agenda? And what exactly needs to be done in terms of empowering and giving that all-important exposure?
I would say yes and no. Yes, because I'm sure very many young people are working in farms somewhere or are participating in poultry farming and things of that sort. But I would say not to the level that we have the capacity to. So I think much should be done in encouraging young people to participate in that space. Because I think for such a long time, agriculture used to be looked at as a failure's job. If you fail, if you didn't do well in school, if you didn't do perfect in whatever you expected to do, you were being told you were supposed to go back to farm. So it looked like some sort of a punishment, and that I think discouraged a lot of young people in participating in agriculture. But now we're getting into a space where agriculture as a business, agriculture as a form of just ensuring food security, and youth being the majority of people in this country, if we participate openly with purpose and direction, I think the young people of this country have a role to play. And if that is done well, and if there is also systems that are put in place so that they ensure that whatever they produce in their farms don't go to waste, but they're things that can help in helping in food sustainability.
Okay, and I don't know if this is a common notion till date, because not everyone is so enthusiastic about going towards agriculture. You know, white-collar jobs and the dressing that comes with it, the allure, as compared to working with dirt and at the end of the day getting value for your hard work. Not everyone thinks that way, especially with the microwave generation that perhaps youth are associated to. So in terms of achieving food security, this all-important goal, do you think it's a mindset change that is needed, or it's all to do with the policy and the effectiveness of these policies at the macro and micro level? How do you view this?
I think it's a mindset to start with, because as you've said, I think very many times, even the people in school were never told, we want to train you to go and farm. You were trained to go and become a doctor, a teacher, a lawyer, something. The white-collar jobs were given preference as a reward to succeeding in your education. But also, I think we have enough policies in this country. We just lack leadership that will follow through the policies that have been put in place so that they become relevant and effective in our systems. Because I believe we have good legislation, we have good policies, we have good documents that are just lying in shelves somewhere in both national and county government offices, that if they were implemented with the right mindset that they were created in the first place, then I don't think we will struggle as a country. I think we have a very vibrant youth in this country, hardworking and willing to take up every opportunity. Look at the ones who are doing agribusiness. Most of them are doing it because it has money. And there is nothing else that is pushing you to do it other than the money. There has to be something else that drives that narrative. Yes, money is good and it's good to sustain yourself, but there has to be something bigger than just money that drives young people into agribusiness.
Okay, since we're speaking about policies, I mean, there are various policies in place. Let's talk about Vision 2030, a case in point, because many of us perhaps were still youthful while we heard of this and will still be youthful as it is being implemented. But are we playing part in this? The development goals, the SDGs, are we plugged in as a way of actually making an impact due to the future being ours?
I don't think so, because if you would randomly just walk out here on the streets and pick 5 youth and ask them, do you know the Vision 2030 and what it seeks to achieve? Or even, do you know the SDGs and what they seek to achieve? I can almost guarantee you that many of the young people that are around would not know what those policies are. So I think it's even from the onset, were the youth involved to know that this thing is being built for them and for the future that comes after them. Because if you don't involve them in the creation process, and I think that is a problem that very many African countries suffer, where policies are made within the boardrooms and then it is given to young people like, follow those things. But if you make them part of the process, if they own the processes that are used to come up with these policies, they will participate because they will feel ownership and they will feel like they have a responsibility to play to ensure that those visions actually come to pass. The Vision 2030 is the government even following up with it? When is the last time you had people have conversations around the Vision 2030? It's just a policy document that exists somewhere. The website itself, I don't think it has been updated since 2017. So when you look at things like that, and you ask yourself, young people want things that are moving. Look at them on social media. Look at them on online. Look at them actively looking for work and participating in some of the places they find of interest. They have the energy. So the young people must be involved in those spaces so that they participate and they give off what they already have, which is the vibrance that is needed to drive the economy forward.
It's good you're talking about vibrance, because at times ignorance is no defense. And let me just use your example. You ask 5 young people about what Vision 2030 entails, they might not know, yet the future is ours. So is it just a lack of implementation from the government level, or we're not concerned as we should be about it? We're more concerned about trends online and the likes. How do you weigh this?
I think it's inclusion. You see,
inclusion, okay.
I don't think many young people have been included in the government as possible. And even the few people who've been appointed into those government positions, you can count them. And sometimes you ask yourself, have they been given those places by merit, or it is just to satisfy a certain demand, like we needed a young person, so we just put in a young person. I think that the government also need to be very deliberate in engaging with the young people. Today we are marking the International Youth Day, but the question you ask yourself as a young person in this country, what are you celebrating? What is it that you can look at as a young person in Kenya today and say, I am proud to be a young person in this country? And that is a conversation that the government, I think, should have today, to say, how do we get to involve the youth more in policy issues? How do they, because they're 70% of this country. If they're 70% of this country, they can practically determine how we move forward. And as much as we can say ignorance, many young people will go to things that interest them. If they're involved in these things from the onset, if they're involved in those processes from the onset, if they are asked what future would they want to see, which most of them would not struggle to share, then they will own the process. And I think it's high time that as the young people of this country also, we stood out and move forward and challenge those positions. We are coming into an area of election. This is the place where most of the political leadership looks at the young people now with a lot of curiosity. Who are they going to vote for? Young people in this country are not just voters. They should also be participants in the conversations that are geared towards development and growth of this country.
Exactly. If they're empowered and equipped with the right skills, they can definitely drive a new era in terms of growth and development.
Yes.
But the biggest issue, the biggest elephant in the room, as many like saying, is youth unemployment right now. As you mentioned, over 70% of the population, but more than 500,000 youth enter the job market annually, and 1 in every 3 of them is qualified but will not get this particular experience to get into the job market and empower their dreams. So in terms of this particular issue, how do we solve it? Is it just creating employment, revenue opportunities for them? As we've had time and time again, we're trying to create employers, not employees right now. So how do you add to this discourse?
And it's a multifaceted thing. And I think the government is right at the center of it. And if you look at, for instance, right now, the government has been pushing for the big four. Where's the youth? If we don't have a good working and vibrant, encouraged and motivated young person, then it will be hard to achieve some of those visions. And as they grapple with unemployment, young people in this country are aggressive and they are willing to create those opportunities. But are there people implementing the policies in place to ensure that young people are able to create those jobs? Take, for instance, our sector, the media industry. The government in 2015 pushed that policy to air 60% local content. How many stations today air 60% local content? And you ask yourself, if that policy was implemented, how many young people will get revenue-generating opportunities as content creators? So there is policy, but I don't think there is enough goodwill to implement those policies, and it is in those spaces that young people will be empowered, because I don't think the government can create enough jobs for the young people in this country. To be very sincere, this current government promised 500,000 jobs a year. How? With COVID now, a lot of people have even lost their jobs. So it means that burden, the unemployment burden in this country, is growing bigger and wider. And look at the effects of unemployment. Crime increases, prostitution, things like that, drugs and substance abuse. Right now, you looked at the statistics last month of young people who've committed suicide. It's alarming. And it's because of the mental illnesses that is associated with being in a space where you feel like you cannot help yourself. And I think if people, private sector and government and people of goodwill come together to look at the issue of youth unemployment critically and look for a solution, because the solutions are there. There are people who are trying to do things in their own small way that also should be lauded. But people need to come to a space and take advantage of a day such as this to have a conversation around youth, to say, how do we rescue that situation of young people, the highest number of, actually we have the highest rate in the region. And we ask ourselves, what can we do? Are there opportunities for us to avert that looming crisis? Yes, there is. And so much can be done.
Oh, so much can be done. Let's talk about what is being done right now, because this is a country whose GDP is definitely centered on the informal sector right now. And at times, that's why the narrative of create employers, not employees, actually gets fueled. So in terms of empowering dreams of this young, perhaps visionary future leaders, how exactly should we do that? Case in point, what does Black Boy Media Lab do to perhaps plug in this deficit in terms of empowering dreams?
Take, for example, what we do at Black Boy. You create a space for those young people to learn work, to learn how to create money. I think our education system did not teach us, to be very sincere, how to make money. It taught us how to go and look for a job. So people who already have spaces, people who already are running businesses, should have an open mind to create an opportunity for young people to get into their spaces and learn how to actually work and generate that revenue. At Black Boy, we've created a space for young people to come and train and understand how they can build a resource and build a network in media, arts and entertainment. And we think that in our own small way, we are helping solve that unemployment challenge, because majority of the young people who come into our space, if you live there as a photographer, you look for your own camera and you're able to go and look for an opportunity to generate revenue for yourself. What we were talking about here, if government becomes firm and implements that 60% local content, the demand for content in this country will go up. And a lot of young people will find an opportunity to employ themselves just in the media and entertainment space. Think about all the other sectors in agriculture. If the food systems in this country we talk each and every year, we talk about the looming food and crisis that we might not have enough food to feed the country. Why should we have that in the young people in this country that are jobless? Can we create an opportunity for them to go into those farmlands, create an opportunity for them to build a resource out of those? And I'm sure in every sector, not in the medical, in the informal sector, the juakali and the artisan industry, there are a lot of opportunities, but are they given an opportunity to thrive?
Okay.
Do we look at them with that mind of building those industries to thrive, or we just look at them as opportunities of getting tax, getting money, and getting the best out of those spaces?
Okay, that's interesting. So as we finalize quite briefly, I mean, it's barely less than a year to go to the general election, and we're speaking about the majority, the youthful population, who at times sort of used by politicians to achieve a certain agenda. And we've heard of this case. If you're not part of the conversation, if you're not on the table, then you're on the menu. So how do we ensure that we're part of the conversation? Because politics and development definitely go hand in hand. How do we ensure this briefly?
Young people of this country must step up, and they might participate in the electoral process. I hear a lot of young people say, I will not vote, the vote will be stolen. The fact that you're not planning to vote, you're giving an opportunity for that rogue leader to get into power. The political leadership of this country know that the youth have the power and the vote. So they look for them during this election season, and they take advantage of the fact that most of them are jobless. So just buy a small token, 200 shillings, 100 shillings, you're sure you'll buy of those youth. But I want to believe that the youth of this country have changed. And in 2022, I can guarantee you that the political leadership will meet a very different group of young people, because now the young people are becoming more aware and more aware with each and every step. Look at the political leadership. Every young person will always tell you what they like or what they don't like. This is an opportunity for us to rally our young people to say, choose wisely. Go out there, participate in that electoral process. Let us choose the leaders that we want to lead us in the next 5 years. We complain about the leaders we have. They are a reflection of who we are, because we've elected them into those posts. Can we make a difference in the next coming election? Can we be counted as the young people of this country to say, in this year's election, despite what the politicians said, we made a choice that we felt will help the young people of this country develop and grow.
Okay, we definitely need to secure the future. Many thanks, Mike Mulure, for making time as a founder of Black Boy Media Lab. Check out what they do in terms of empowering dreams of the youth, especially within the media industry. So it's to do with inclusion and especially goodwill from the government as well. Thanks for making time as we celebrate this International Youth Day 2021, which is sort of centered on plugging in order to achieve equitable and sustainable food systems.